again, welcome to Generally Divided. Now let's put the brakes on just for a little bit and give you guys a little insight into why we came up with the name Generally Divided. Well, as we were talking about ideas for this podcast YouTube show, we thought, okay, what will our name be? So there's two different generations, two different viewpoints, two different outlooks on life. And more often than not, when we talked about different topics, they varied. There was a big divide in there. So Gen X, Gen Z, and we're generally divided. So hence the name Generally Divided. So welcome to the next episode of Generally Divided. So in this episode or show or whatever you want to call this, I don't know. We just finished watching Peacemaker, the HBO Max series, which is a spinoff of the Suicide Squad, with the main character Peacemaker portrayed by John Cena, of course, with Freddie Stroma, Steve Agee, Danielle Brooks, Jennifer Holland, I think her name is, and many more. Of course, written by James Gunn. He directed 5 of the episodes. Now, this is the one item where both generations agreed. What were your thoughts on Peacemaker?
It is a wild ride. That my first thought that comes to my head, it is a crazy mash of exactly what I was expecting James Gunn to do with it. Very colorful, very bright, very bloody, very bloody. It just really did the character justice. It was a comic book based storyline, and it did the comics justice. Honestly, the show is exactly as how I expected the TV show to go, and it did not disappoint.
I agree. See, we agreed. No, I think James Gunn was the perfect person to create this series. From the musical choices to the casting to just the overall tone, like you said, the colors, the writing, just the right amount of action, humor, gore. I think he captured that perfectly and gave us a series that was very much a comic book come to life. Now, I say that because with his other movie, The Suicide Squad, that came out last year in 2021, was also, I think, the best comic book movie, I think. It was just so what you would expect. It's like watching a comic book, but on the big screen. And it was just so perfect. So I'm so glad that Peacemaker followed suit with that. And I'm so glad that season 2 is already been secured, and he's going to be writing and directing all however many episodes of that there will be. But the question for today is, would you prefer Gen Z guy Marco to see a DC universe led by James Gunn or led by Justice League Zack Snyder?
Well, that one's a tough one. James Gunn has a really good perspective when it comes to more grungy style, dark heroes, giving them a different light. Kind of like Suicide Squad. They were very bright. The color scheme was very bright, especially in Suicide Squad 2. Just the heroes, the way that they were shown was very colorful, very bright, very vibrant. And it had a good element of humor that kind of uplifted it as well as kept it rolling. And it was true for a lot of the characters in the show as to their comic book counterparts. However, when it comes to the DC Universe mainline, like the bigger heroes, the heroes everyone knows, Batman, Superman.
The main roster.
Yeah, the main roster, their main roster. I feel Zack Snyder really got into the comics and kind of just dove in all the way. The color scheme felt right. It felt dark because DC's always been known as dark. It's been a joke, as old as time, that the DC is very, very just a darker, set of comics.
Mm-hmm.
With that in mind, I think James Gunn could do a good job if it was a separate universe, if it was a his own version of them, but kept it canonical. Because that's been a problem with DC, is not keeping it in, all the movies connected. They've been kind of just scattered, different directors and all that.
Yeah, that's true. And that's so like with Marvel MCU, they have Kevin Feige, who's like been like the top man, right? So all things have been going through him, and everything underneath him, it all filters through, but it all still connects. Now DC, I think because they're partially they're owned by Warner Brothers, I think they've been siloed out. And what I mean by that is they'll have the Batman or Joker or some of the other series that don't really connect with one another. I know they tried the DCEU with Aquaman, Justice League, Wonder Woman, and trying to get them all connected. But I don't think we've seen, even with the Zack Snyder Justice League, them really starting to blend together until James Gunn comes in and the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, and then of course at the cameos at the very end of Peacemaker connects it to Justice League with Aquaman and the Flash. But that being said, I think unfortunately I'll have to agree with you. I think Zack Snyder with his grit, his darker tones, is more suited for what I perceive DC Comics to be. DC Comics, like you said, have always been darker and grittier, more so than their Marvel counterparts. And realizing that that's, hopefully hopefully DC will do a better job of connecting them.
Yeah, well, I think honestly with this latest Zack Snyder's movie, his retouch of the Justice League, if you pay attention to a lot of the details in it, which what I've done is I've researched, as much as I can on the movies, because I really liked what he did with it. The first one didn't really hit me right. There was always something off about it. And I didn't connect what that was until I saw the color scheme switch, the added pieces that were missing that felt like they needed to be there. And then I feel what he did is he retconned the first Justice League. So that whole path, the Aquaman and all that, it's got retconned. It's got redone with the Flash going back in time. And he made it so that both technically exist in the same universe. It's just the first path, the first Justice League, and they lead into failure because they have no idea who Darkseid is. They have no idea what's really going on because it really didn't touch on it. And Zack Snyder's, universe, the whole enchilada, they got everything in one. And that is how the Flash goes back. He kind of retcons it and it's like, okay, this reset. So I think that's what he's trying to do to connect it. But I think that's what it needed. I think it needed to be fixed in a way.
Okay. To be fixed. Well, thank you, Zack Snyder, for fixing it, I guess. I think I would prefer, I agree with you that Zack Snyder's more suited for DC Comics. Personally, though, I like James Gunn's style better and his writing better. It touches more on my humor style and sensibilities. So, I mean, I like Zack Snyder's work, and all those Snyderverse fans out there will probably hate on me for this, but I think Gunn is better. I really do. James Gunn, to me, is going to be a better storyteller in that universe, even if he does take it a little bit darker. I mean, he's done horror work before. He's done Slither. He was connected to, I think he wrote Brightburn, which is a very dark movie. So he has that capability of writing it and turning up the darkness and horror element of it to make it more in line with what the perceived notion of DC Comics is. I think it's just more, I prefer James Gunn. So go Team Gunn.
I can agree with you there. James Gunn really does have a great knack for telling, darker stories. My personal opinion is I think if there was ever an opportunity, they should collaborate. They should bring ideas together, because a DC universe like Superman is very bright. Everything in his, from Metropolis to his villains, it's bright colors, bright energy, a lot of light. and flip it over to Batman, Gotham. It's very dark. It's very gritty. The storylines are very strong, and the undertones of just loss and pain. His villains. So if they could collab, because that is what DC does, the Justice League is a collab of light and dark colors and making them kind of mesh into one.
True. You know what's weird, though, is what we don't see with Marvel. I was just thinking about this, is you don't see fans saying like, oh, we need the John Watts Spider-Man writer, director, versus we need him more than we need James Gunn. They all seem to play happy underneath the Marvel umbrella. And we do only see the contention between the different directors, with David Ayers, James Gunn, Zack Snyder in the DC. I wonder why that is.
That is a good point. I honestly, in my opinion, I think it's really well kept. DC kind of, a lot of their stuff, everyone has access to. Everyone can hear what's going on very quickly. As opposed to Marvel under Disney, you really don't hear everything that's going on behind the doors. I feel that their umbrella kind of shields them from all that's going on, and we don't really find out until after the fact.
So you're saying there could be all this infighting and whatnot, but Disney blocks it because they have their brand to protect?
That's what it feels like. Yes, that's exactly what it feels like, because Disney is a very powerful, powerhouse. They are up there. So I think they have, the resources to ensure that their brand is protected, as opposed to DC, which is working, in an uphill battle. I mean, if we look at all the movies that Marvel has compared to DC, it's really, there. Marvel has, a lot behind their belt, and it's all interconnected. DC, I can tell they're building it, and I'm really hopeful, especially with the next Batman that's coming out. I'm really hopeful to see what they do with it and the storyline that they tell, how they take it. It looks like it's going to be dark. It's going to be a very dark, gritty movie.
Now, is that connected to the other, or that's a standalone, right?
That feels like a standalone.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like a standalone. But again, with the comics of DC, there are a lot of versions of Batman. There are a lot of versions of the Flash. There's a lot of versions of all characters. So I feel what DC is kind of doing is sprinkling their characters around so that they can make something bigger behind the scenes. I think that's what they're trying to do. And it's just an uphill battle, because all we see on the outside is one Batman movie, another Batman movie, another Superman movie. And there's no interconnection. So people are looking for that.
Well, I think if what I heard is correctly, so the new movie with The Rock or Dwayne Johnson, Black Adam, is going to be the next connectivity movie. From what, if the rumors are true, a character from Peacemaker is going to appear in that movie as well. So here comes the more connectivity. So I'm hoping for that. I mean, that Black Adam looks like it's going to be a fantastic movie, and maybe that will be like the one major movie that connects all the different realms. Because I know there's like Hawkman's going to be in that, and a bunch of other characters that hopefully will connect it to Suicide Squad, connected to Aquaman, connected to Justice League, and hopefully that will be like the one missing piece, I guess, that all the other ones can connect back to. So therefore, the DCEU becomes a true functional universe.
Yeah, no, I definitely feel that that's what they're going to do. I mean, Black Adam, Shazam, Wonder Woman, they all deal with magic. And in the comics, Wonder Woman uses a lot more of it than she does in the movies. And I feel they're going to build her up with her second movie that came out. She was a lot more enveloped in her magic and in the history of her magic, her abilities. So I feel like that's what they're doing with her. But with Black Adam, Shazam, everyone else, I think they're really just going to use that magical power to kind of connect everything, because all Black Adam is, all Shazam is, those characters all intertwine in powerful magic.
Well, all right. Well, let us know in the comments, everyone, what you think. Who would you prefer? Would you prefer Zack Snyder universe, or maybe a James Gunn universe, or maybe someone else who we didn't even mention that we don't even know? Would you prefer them? What are you looking forward to in the DCEU? Are you looking forward to Black Adam the most? Maybe the new Flash movie? What are you looking forward to? Let us know what you think, so that way we can tell you why you're wrong. All right. We will talk to you next time. Bye, everyone.